drinking fountains. Only back then it would be a drinking fountain instead of, or today's school would be a drinking fountain. Yes, Paul, Cleo.
So are those some students that used to go here?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I have two uncles and two aunts in the middle lower picture. And, you know what a ballpoint pen was back in 1852 when this school opened?
They were actually, some of them were feathers.
No, this was before they had feathers. You have some right in front of you. Yeah, chalk is a ballpoint pen. And then in, I'm gonna say 18 something, I'm not positive of the date, they switched over to quill pens. And you know what a quill is? You do? No? Okay.
I know. It's a feather that you dip in.
Yeah. And what the kids would do at first day of school, and usually before, they would go home and tell their dad they wanted the biggest chicken feather that he could pluck. And so he'd go up to the chicken and pull one feather out and sharpen it for you so you could take it to school. And they lasted, I'm going to say, approximately 2 or 3 weeks at the most. So, but the unique part of it is, you know what is inside all bird feathers? Nothing. They're hollow. So that when you dip that quill into your inkwell, which is that hole on the front of your pen, yeah, it would fill up with the center of the feather would fill up with ink, and you could write for a long time. And after that, they came up with what's called a dipping pen, and it had no storage. But if you had a word to write, a long word, like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you'd have to dip your pen 6, sometimes 7 times. Or if you were writing audience, you might have to dip it 2 or 3 times. So that was the downfall. It would always stay sharp, but the downfall was that it didn't store either. So after that, it was the fountain pen, and then the ballpoint pen. And the school, if you look up there, it's a comparison of today's school and yesterday's school, this one, for instance. This is a level reader, and today you would probably have a laptop or a tablet as your level reader. And the next thing down is a ballpoint pen. I told you what a ballpoint pen is back in 1852. And then the water fountain was right there. When you came in the morning, the boys all had to drop their school stuff and go out and get an armload of wood. And they were actually required to come in 5 minutes early, so they had time to do that. And then one of the boys would go out to the well and dip a fresh bucket of water and pour it in the water fountain. And then the girls had to stay 5 minutes later after school. They didn't have to come in 5 minutes early, but they had to stay 5 minutes later after school because they helped the school teacher clean the classroom. And that's how this whole thing started in Farmington. I don't know what town you from? Farmington. They had 25 of these little schools. They were called neighborhood schools, and they were all over the place. And when they built the school, it didn't have this beautiful curved ceiling. It just was up to the rafters. Well, in a common school was better than a regular school. And so in 1920, they decided to make this a common school because they had a teacher's college right here in Farmington. So that meant that student teachers could come over and teach the students here. So they had to put this ceiling on to regulate the heat. They had to put this wall up to regulate the heat. And they had to have a covered outhouse. So they built that room on and made it the outhouse. And that was where you went to the bathroom. And Do you know what let's go down the list. Do you know what a dry erase board
Yeah.
would be back when this was built? You have whiteboards and dry erase boards. What do you think you had in this school?
Do you see any whiteboards in here?
No.
Leo?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Chalkboards, yeah, the big chalkboard. Okay, now. Stickers. Do you have any idea what they used for stickers back then? You know, today, or back when I went to school, we'd get a star by our name or gold star, yeah. What do you think they used?
For what?
For stickers.
I think they used.
They used stamps and ink. They had rubber stamps made, and they would stamp it in the ink, and then they stamp it on your hand. And the next one is calculators. Well, I have one out in the case out there. It's called an abacus, and you could add, subtract, multiply, and divide with an abacus.
You can look at it on the way out.
And all it is a bunch of beads. It's 10 beads on a piece of wire inside a wooden frame. And laptop computer. Well, what do you get off a laptop computer? You get information. Well, back then, we got information out of either the encyclopedia or the dictionary. And lunch boxes. Who has any idea what a lunchbox was?
A lunch.
A lunch pail, yes. From kindergarten to 4th grade, I carried a large pail to school every day. And I could pretty much count on having a biscuit, a jar of soup, and if I'd been good, I'd get a cookie. If I hadn't been good, I wouldn't get the cookie. And we would actually bring it in, and the teacher would do one of two things. If he was a good cook, he might mix some of the soups together. If he was a bad cook, he'd mix all of them together. And it wasn't the best stuff to eat. I think actually that's where bubbling squeak came from, which they served in Farmington schools back when I was in school. And it was the grossest stuff you ever could imagine eating. Whistle and buzzer. What do you think they used back when this school was open? Yeah? Bells, exactly. And the last thing is movies and videos. And they had projectors, which we have in a case out there, and that was the movie and the projector. Actually, that would have been that was created sometime in the late 1890s. So, and that's what school was like in 1892, 1852.
What was discipline like if you
Oh,
didn't
discipline
sit down
was-
and do your
yeah.
work when you were told?
Discipline was extremely harsh. You might have to, for instance, if you spoke out of turn, you'd have to come up here and sit right here. And the teacher stood right here. And if you did anything, he was right on you, or she. Because a lot of teachers were she's.
Yeah. Now.
Go ahead.
So, was this like when students were badly?
Yeah, the naughty stool, the dunce. Actually, I have a picture of a dunce cap on this stool. And let me see.
You might have also had a switch.
They do have in the first cabinet, they have a punishment stick. And it's about yay thick, about 2 or 3 inches wide, and about 18 inches long. And you didn't want to get hit with that. It's bad enough getting hit with a ruler, because that's what they did when I was in school. The teacher would say, lay your hand on your desk, and I would, and she'd smack me with a ruler. Yeah. Yeah, yes, it hurt. Yeah. It didn't hurt me to break a bone or anything because I used the flat side. But even so, it stung like crazy.
You learned your lessons pretty quickly.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So is that also like when today, if you're bad, like bad enough that teachers would have moved your desk over by their
Or send you to the principal's office.
But like by the teacher's desk.
Yeah.
Back then, where was the principal's office?
Well, the principals didn't, this school had one teacher, no principal, no nothing. But that teacher knew everybody in the neighborhood. And if you were bad, she'd send a note home with you. If she didn't hear from your parents within a day, she would actually call them or go over to their house in the winter, or, you know, when, if they didn't have it. It was pretty strict. I taught 300 or 400 kids here in 2 or 3 hours on Monday. And the first thing I said, grab a seat and you're in school. So you will be quiet unless you have a question, you raise your hand, or unless I ask you a question. And it went beautifully. Everybody was pretty nice. Yep.
Were there any schools that would be judgmental about people who would use their left hand or left-handed?
Yes. Why is it an old school? Because it is. It's older than me. That's pretty old.
I am old too.
Yeah. I'm an antique. Once you get up to 75, you become an antique.
Well, I have a million top and
Yes, they did.
The dog just died and
Yes, they did have.
Are you left-handed?
And the teachers would always try to make you learn to write with your right hand rather
That
than
happened
your
to my
left.
great-grandmother.
Yeah.
She was left-handed, and she was forced to be right-handed.
That happened to me, and I'm not ancient yet.
She's not as old as I am, what she's trying to say.
In the 1980s, they tried to switch my hand to right hand, and I'm like,
Yeah, and there were actually, even in Maine, there were separate schools for different cultures.
yeah.
And they didn't, when in '62, when they opened this school back up as a private school, the reason it was a private school, yeah, yes, that's pretty neat. When they opened this up as a private school, they didn't mix special ed kids with the regular kids. So the special ed kids had to go to private school, and the regular kids went to neighborhood. You've been to CMB, haven't you? Yes, Paul.
did they sometimes have bag lunch?
They didn't have paper bags back then. They didn't even have paper for the students to write
I
on.
get snacks in my class.
In school, I would get snacks in mine. That was what a cookie was. But I'd only get it if I'd been good.
Well, I need a cookie, so my mom gets snacks.
And the teacher used to tell me this was my second death. Because I wasn't very good in school.
Do you have any other questions? Do you have any questions? You want to see the animals? Let's go see the animals.
I want to see all the animals field.
Yep. You say so.
We like just stay here for the. The animals are always next to you. Yeah. I'm so